the water is gone. And with it, 200 million years of dominance are evaporating into a merciless, white-hot sky. This is not a slow decline of a species, it is the sudden, violent erasure of a kingdom. Imagine the ultimate survivor, a creature that has witnessed the birth and death of continents, suddenly realizing that its vast, watery empire has turned into a shallow, suffocating tomb. The liquid shadow it calls home is receding, leaving behind nothing but cracked earth and the stench of impending rot. The crocodile has outlived the dinosaurs. It has survived asteroid impacts that blotted out the sun and ice ages that gripped the planet in a frozen fist. It is nature's perfect killing machine, silent, patient, and practically immortal. But today, the rules of the game have changed. The environment is no longer a backdrop for the hunt, it has become the executioner. Listen closely. Can you hear it? It is not the splash of a powerful tail or the snap of a bone-crushing jaw. It is the heavy, labored rasp of a predator realizing it is no longer the hunter. It is the victim of a world that has simply run dry. In the first few hours of the drought, there is no panic. There is only a profound, unsettling stillness. The crocodile remains submerged in what little mud remains, its golden eyes fixed on a horizon that offers no hope. Its skin, that ancient, armored hide of guts and bone, is designed to retain moisture, but even the toughest leather has a breaking point. Without the cooling embrace of the river, the sun becomes a jagged blade. It slices through the humidity, peeling back the prehistoric defenses of the beast, bit by agonizing bit. The water was its armor, its stealth, and its lifeblood. Now, exposed to the raw elements, the titan is naked. The temperature rises. A crocodile's blood is cold, meaning it is at the mercy of its surroundings. The riverbed is no longer a nursery, it is a furnace. It cannot sweat. It cannot pant like a dog to regulate its internal core. It can only open its maw in a silent, wide-mouthed scream, a behavioral quirk called gaping, meant to shed heat. But there is no breeze to take the heat away. There is only the radiant, pulsing heat of the earth, rising up from the cracked silt to cook the creature from the inside out. The very ground it once ruled is now betraying it, turning into a hot plate of stone and dust. By the second day, the desperation sets in. This is what naturalists call the migration of the damned. Thousands of pounds of muscle and bone begin to drag themselves across the scorched earth. On land, the crocodile is a clumsy relic, a fish out of water in the most literal and lethal sense. Every inch forward is a grueling battle against gravity. Their heavy bellies rub raw against the jagged, sun-baked silt. Their claws, usually meant for gripping slippery riverbanks, now crack and bleed against the unforgiving stone. They are moving toward a memory, the scent of a waterhole that existed a week ago, but is now nothing more than a graveyard of sun-bleached fish and skeletal trees. The crocodile moves through these ruins like a ghost, its once powerful tail dragging behind it, leaving a heavy, rhythmic trail in the thick dust. It is a trail that leads to nowhere. The desperation is palpable. A mile away, the air might hold a hint of moisture, a cruel trick of the atmosphere. The beast pushes on, its heart hammering against its ribs, a rhythmic drumbeat of survival that is slowly losing its tempo. Every step consumes precious energy it cannot replace. Every breath draws in the dry, searing air that further dehydrates its internal organs. As the water vanishes, the ancient hierarchy of the wild is cruelly inverted. The apex predator, the dragon of the deep, is now vulnerable. It is vulnerable to the very scavengers it once terrorized during the river crossings. Hyenas begin to circle the perimeter, their manic laughter echoing in the unnatural silence of the wasteland. They sense the weakness. They see the king stumbling. Vultures descend from the heat haze, not yet to strike, but to watch with patient, calculating eyes. They are the heralds of the end. They know that without water, time is the greatest weapon ever forged. They do not need to fight, they only need to wait. In a moment of primal rage, the crocodile snaps. It is a sudden, violent burst of movement intended to ward off the encroaching circle of teeth and feathers. But the strike is slow. It is heavy. The snap misses by inches, the jaws clacking together with a hollow, dry thud. The hyenas skip back, mocking the fallen king with yips of delight. The energy cost of that single, failed strike was too high. The crocodile's heart, a complex four-chambered masterpiece of evolution, begins to labor under the strain. Its blood thickens, turning from a fluid life force into a sluggish, dark sludge. The internal organs, deprived of hydration, begin to protest, sending signals of agony to a brain that has only ever known the thrill of the kill. When movement finally becomes impossible, the crocodile turns to its final, darkest trick, estivation. This is the biological equivalent of a white flag. It finds a hollow under a fallen, desiccated log or digs deep into the drying riverbank, burying itself in the cooling mud that has yet to harden. It is a living burial. A self-inflicted tomb. The crocodile is attempting to outsleep the sun, to hide from a world that has become too hostile to inhabit. Inside this darkness, the world narrows. The crocodile enters a state of suspended animation. Its heart rate drops from a steady pulse to a mere 2 or 3 beats per minute. Its breathing becomes so shallow it is almost undetectable to the naked eye. It is trying to wait. It is waiting for a rain that may never come, for a season that has been forgotten by the sky. But it is here, in the suffocating dark of the mud, that the true horror begins. In this state, the crocodile is fully conscious, yet paralyzed by its own biology. It cannot move, but it can feel. It feels the parasites beginning to feast on its drying scales. It feels the hunger, a gnawing, hollow void in its gut that begins to consume its own fat reserves, then its muscle, then the very marrow of its bones. The body is eating itself to keep the brain alive. Hours turn into days. Days turn into weeks. Above the surface, the sun continues its relentless march across the sky, baking the mud into a casing as hard as iron. The crocodile is no longer a creature of the water, it is a prisoner of the earth. The ecosystem outside the tomb is collapsing in real time. The rivers were the veins of the world, and the crocodiles were the guardians of the flow. Without them to cull the weak and clear the channels, the remaining water holes become stagnant pits of disease and death. The prey animals, the wildebeest, the zebra, the gazelle die of thirst by the thousands, their carcasses bloating and bursting in the sun. There are no crocodiles to drag them beneath the surface, no teeth to tear the flesh and accelerate the natural cycle of decay. The world becomes a landscape of rot, a silent theater of the macabre where the only sound is the buzzing of a billion flies. But the buried crocodile doesn't know this. It only knows the silence of its muddy grave. Imagine the sensation of your skin tightening until it begins to crack like old parchment. Imagine your eyes, once capable of seeing in the murkiest depths with the precision of a laser, now clouded with dust and infection. The delicate membranes dry out. The vision fades into a blur of gray and shadow until the world disappears entirely. The king is now blind, trapped in a dark cell of its own making. Eventually, even the mud betrays the survivor. As the last molecules of moisture are sucked out by the heat, the earth hardens. It sets like concrete, pinning the crocodile in place with a pressure that is immense and unyielding. It cannot move a limb. It cannot even open its mouth to take a deeper breath. It is a fossil being formed while the heart is still beating. This is not a quick death. This is not the mercy of a predator's strike. It is a slow, methodical erasure of a life that refused to give up. Think about the sheer scale of this loss. If all water vanished, we aren't just losing an animal. We are losing a biological bridge to the Triassic period. We are losing the master of the wetlands, the engineer of the river systems. The silence that follows is deafening. There are no more territorial bellows that shake the very air and rattle the reeds. There are no more sudden, terrifying ripples in the water that signal a life about to end in a flash of gold and green. There is just the wind, carrying the scent of dust and the ghosts of a dynasty. In the final stages, the crocodile's brain begins to shut down. The primitive lizard brain, the part that has dictated its survival for eons, flickers like a dying candle. In its final moments, it dreams. It dreams of the cool, dark currents of a flooded river. It dreams of the weightlessness of the hunt, the feeling of water rushing over its scales as it lunges for a drinking calf. It dreams of the salt spray of the estuaries and the soft, muddy banks of a home that has been swallowed by the sun. It is a hallucination of a world that no longer exists. The last thing to go is the heart. One long, agonizing pause. The muscle twitches, trying to find one last drop of energy from the wasted frame. Then, another pause, longer than the last. And then, nothing. The electrical impulses cease. The internal furnace goes cold. The earth has reclaimed its most resilient children. The crocodiles are gone. They didn't vanish because they were weak. They didn't die because they were out-hunted or outsmarted. They died because the world simply withdrew the one thing that made their strength possible. Their power was a gift from the water, and when the gift was taken back, the power turned into a burden that crushed them. The riverbeds are now nothing but scars on the face of the planet, long, winding gashes of brown and gray. And buried beneath them, in the hardened clay, are the armored remnants of a dynasty that lasted millions of years, ended by the simple, terrifying absence of a single drop of rain. When the water finally returns, if the clouds ever decide to break and the heavens finally weep, it will wash over the bones. It will fill the dry channels and pour into the empty sockets where those golden eyes once watched the world. But there will be no movement. There will be no snap of the jaw to greet the rain. There will be no ancient shadow lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the unwary. The water will flow over a graveyard. The king is dead. And the water. The water arrived too late to save the throne. The tragedy isn't just that they died, it is the manner of their passing. They died in the heat, in the dust, in the absolute, terrifying realization that even the strongest among us, the most armored, the most ancient, the most feared, are nothing without the flow. We are all beholden to the rhythm of the planet, and when that rhythm stops, the music ends for everyone. Look at the dry earth beneath your feet. Feel the heat of the sun on your own skin. Somewhere, deep down in the parched crust of the world, an ancient heart might be taking its very last beat right now. It is waiting for a miracle in a world that has forgotten how to cry. The age of the dragon is over. The silence has finally won. The throne is empty, and the river is a ghost story told by the wind.